indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to make mention of the emergency exits. The one that says exit to my left and the main entrance as you walk in. I want to make a motion to open up the workshop meeting.
I'll make that motion.
We have a second.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then in what was the 386 Route 17M could not make it tonight, so I'll make a motion that we had to revise the agenda late this afternoon to reflect that they could not make it tonight. So do I have a motion to accept the new agenda?
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So the only thing on the agenda tonight is rest haven. So maybe, John?
Yep.
You want to maybe go over your review first?
Sure.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, John Canning with Kimberley Horn. I have reviewed the materials that were submitted. In fact, there were some materials that I overlooked that were submitted recently that I've also had a chance to look at. As you're aware, the application is to convert an existing single-family house that was previously approved for use as a daycare centre, I think in 2020, to be used as a restaurant inn. The primary purpose of the use will be a restaurant. There's proposed to be, I think, 6 homes or 6 rooms for lodging, which is a small number. There was mention of some office on the 3rd floor, which is probably also inconsequential, but it would be good to know whether it was accessory or not. So if it's accessory to the business use, that's just part of any normal business. If it's separate and they'll have separate employees, we'd want to account for that. The most important thing for us to get our hands around this, and I don't think it's a heavy lift, but I think we need to understand a couple of things. Number one, the type of restaurant, because it's very variously described as a full-service dine-in restaurant, a casual sit-down restaurant, Code 932 from the ITE Trip Generation Manual, which is a high-turnover sit-down restaurant, and then a sit-down casual diner, which is a little bit something different. My expectation, and I'm not the applicant, but typically you would hope for something like this, it would be a higher end restaurant where people would go and they'd spend an hour, an hour and a half, table service and stuff like that. That's my expectation. It could also be something less upmarket, which would be more like a chain restaurant where you go in for 45 minutes to an hour and service is generally quicker. The reason I bring this up, as the different uses have different categories in the ITE, they have different trip generation and different parking. I honestly don't think the traffic, and we can go into that in a little bit, is going to be all that significant. High Street is a relatively low volume roadway. There's about 300 vehicles in the peak hour. The restaurant's probably going to add, depending on the type, somewhere on the order of maybe 30 to 40 trips on a weekday evening and probably 40 to 70 trips in the middle of the day on a Saturday. And some of it's going to go to and from the north and some of it's going to go to and from the south. We can get into the details of that. I just came down High Street onto Lakes Road myself and it's kind of busy. So this board is going to have to decide whether adding 20 trips to Lakes Road is worthy of evaluating or not. And based on your own experience, that's one trip every 3 minutes. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, and they're not all coming down High Street. Some are going up, some are going down. So we need to determine what the use is so we can determine how much traffic it is. I think it's more important for parking because the parking numbers vary more and you have a finite amount of parking. I don't think parking ultimately will be a problem once we get the number right. There's some ways to accommodate parking on the site. Right now they're proposing 54. That may be enough. If it's not, there's a way we maybe can squeeze out a few more. In addition to the type of use, and the applicant's getting there, I'm sure, we need to nail down the quantity or the size, because the report variously relates to 113 seats, 120 seats, 125 seats, and the parking is based on the number of seats. And I'm sure this board would like to make a finite determination as to how many seats there are and how many parking spaces are required. So, and then the final thing, I was just out there, as I mentioned, had a look at the site driveway. When you come out of the site, there's believe it or not, High Street was kind of cut into the roadway at that location, so there's a little berm on the side of the road, and you don't have great sight lines to the north, and then there's a couple of trees to the south. So I'm confident ultimately that the applicant will be able to provide the requisite sight lines, but it may involve some earthwork, maybe removing a couple of trees. So they should indicate on their plans where the sight triangles are and what work is needed to provide the sight lines. They've indicated that 335 feet is required for a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. In my opinion, that's sufficient for that location. We can get into the specifics and the details if you want, but they haven't demonstrated on a plan that that's actually provided right now, and based on my visit to the site, I don't think it quite is. So those are the highlights from a traffic and parking perspective. If the applicant is ready to talk specifically about the type of restaurant, and pardon me if I've missed that, and then the firm number of seats. I also looked at the square footage, and for the most part they've got it as 2834 or 2800 square feet, excluding one of the rooms, which is kind of close to what I got. The board may want to consider what the impacts of parking are on having outdoor seating. In the summer months, typically you get more usage with outdoor seating. You probably have a little bit more parking. A way you could deal with that, depending on where you get to on the finish line, is during busy times you could require that valet parking be provided if needed. So the plan and the expectation, let's say, is that they have 54 parking spaces on a regular basis. They only need 50, but on busy weekends in the summer they need 60. Then there would be a requirement in their site plan that on busy weekends in the summer they provide valet parking when needed to make sure that they've got enough parking.
And unfortunately, there's no off-street parking.
Correct.
So
It's a narrow road.
yeah, so they can't off-street park, so.
I think there's a path forward here.
Mhm.
I think really we just need to firm up with the applicant what it is they're doing and then how we can accommodate their needs. But, we need to go through the process. You need to make a determination on
Right.
what the traffic would be,
Right.
and we'll look at the parking together.
Now, how critical do you think counts are?
So depending on, if you want, I will tell you that I don't expect an analysis of their site driveway will provide any concerning information. I expect if you look at their driveway at the peak hour coming out, there might be a delay of 25, 30 seconds, which is a level of service C or B for traffic coming out of the site. Not bad. Gilbert Street is an always stop, right? At High Street, not a great one because each leg seems to come in a different way, right? But nonetheless, it's an always stop, which basically means that the pain is spread. So even if you do put more traffic on Gilbert Street, or on High Street going up to Gilbert, it'll be kind of spread out because everybody else has to stop to let them go. Plus, just preliminary looking at it, I think probably more of the traffic is going to come to and from the south. I don't know how much more. Probably, a 60-40 split. We could get into that with the applicant. If it's 40 trips in the peak hour, 40% of 40 is 16, 18 trips. Half of them in, half of them out, 8 in either direction. So, this is a long-winded answer to your question, Mr. Chairman, so my apologies. I don't think it'll be a huge impact at High Street, at Gilbert. I think there'll be more traffic down at Lakes Road. I think Lakes Road is a busier street. So you may want to study that. The answer to your question is, you can do traffic counts now and you can adjust them. So if I was to do it, if I was this applicant's traffic study and I needed to do it, I'd do a traffic count. It doesn't generate any traffic in the morning because, typically a higher end restaurant doesn't open in the morning.
Right.
So you're looking at the afternoon. The peak hour is 5 to 6. School typically lets out before the 5 to 6 peak hour, so it's less of an impact than it is in the morning. So that's a sort of a blessing in this case. Typically, I would increase the PM volumes by about 5% to account for the fact that during the summer months, some people are away, so traffic volumes are a little bit less. Maybe it's a little bit more than 5%. Then you can do all of your analyses and make sure that everything is reasonably okay. Depending on the results, if the results are clearly definitively good, there's no real concern. If the results are kind of on the fence, by the time you get the results done and you've got to review them, you're back in September, you could count it again, and confirm that the adjustments that you made to the counted traffic volumes
Right.
are acceptable.
Okay.
So it's not, as a very long-winded answer, it's not critical, it's not an ideal time, but we could make it work if we had to.
Okay, good.
Just kidding, I'm curious, what's that gonna cost? Traffic analysis?
Depending on the number of intersections, a single intersection, depending on what you would like to study, the PM peak hour, and that maybe you want to study an afternoon on Saturday. It's up to you. You guys know the roads better than I. Just to do the basic analysis is probably going to cost about $5,000. If you want to, add a safety analysis, a crash analysis, or anything else, that'll be more. But just to do the counts and do the basic analysis and report the findings.
Well, we can go,
That would have to be supplemented later on in the fall, too?
So, as I mentioned, if the results come back and it's pretty clear that, it's a nothing sandwich, there's no point in doing counts in the fall. If it comes back and it shows, wow, there's 45 seconds of delay coming down High Street, and that's a level of service E. We're not sure if in September it'll be 10% higher, so it'll go to an F. Then it would cost you $500 to recount and probably another $500 to compare the results, and then probably another $800 to come back here and tell you guys. So that'd be, the guts of $1,500.
Now, the price I got on the applicant, Tim, it's nice to meet you. Price I got was $9,000 to do what you're asking for. From LaBelle, I think. it is.
Yeah.
That's a steep number when, like you said, pretty much it shows. Now, some of your information, just to correct it,
Yes.
because I don't think you got everything that
Sure.
you needed. Did you get the ITE report from Jim Teague?
I did not see the ITE report from Jim T.
This is why the confusion comes in, and where I got the 250 on the high end was from him,
Yeah,
okay? Second, it's only gonna be 4 rooms, not 6 rooms.
Sure.
The local law allows for a living manager.
Yep.
Which SLA requires with the rooms up on the second floor, manager has to live on location. The other thing is that the reason, and I got your profile, you can have that if you want.
this is sewage calculation, so maybe.
No, but the first column, where it says occupancy, this column, that's what he told me to use.
Well,
And that's based on 2,515 square feet
sure,
in total.
sure.
But yeah, we did adjust it at the last meeting to make the museum room 1. But the other thing is that what we're doing here, we were notified in the very beginning by Mr. Higgins, is that in order to avoid a full-blown study and stuff, to keep it below a ½ acre of disturbance. That's the local law.
So, but that's drainage.
well,
Yes,
that's,
he's
right.
referring to stormwater, yes.
That's not.
Yeah, that's a SWIP analysis.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where we came up with the 54, where it is, because it's the least area disturbed. Also, I don't know if you know, this house is also listed on the National Registry, and that's part of my biggest problem with the whole
Sure,
thing.
I
is that-
understand.
So those are all the things that like, I can't go, as you suggested in diagram,
Mhm.
I can't go that close to the house, because it's a stone house, stone foundation. So we're keeping everything away from the house, because Albany also has to review everything. And Albany won't allow me to start disturbing near the house.
I mean, I have a house that's probably as old as that, and they
Yeah,
come
but I'm
by.
on the National Registry, I
Right.
have guidelines. That, everything, even as the board has gracefully acknowledged, when this is all said, and it has to go to Albany.
Sure.
And Albany's gonna come back and say yay or nay, but they don't want me anywhere near the house. So that's why we did it the way we did it.
Okay.
And that's how I came up with the 250, was from the occupancy, which I did submit that to the village board. It's in their record.
We have it electronically.
Sure.
Terry will submit it to you.
So, this is sanitation, and the sanitation system is being designed for 229 people, supposedly, which is fine, right? But we're looking to do parking and traffic.
Right?
Well, yeah, let me explain
It's
the
a different
part.
issue.
Yes.
It's a different issue.
And the numbers in the AI generated report
Yeah,
Right.
were some of them were, so there was 113 seats listed on a seating plan.
Right.
And then the AI report variously used 120 in a number of places, seats, and 125 also. But they're all about the same, and depending on the type of use, for a higher end use, people stay longer, and because they stay longer, they're parked longer, and you get higher parking numbers.
And to that answer,
Yes.
the question, it's gonna be a basic local place. We're not going high-end, meaning price. When people say high-end, I think high prices. It's gotta be moderate prices. They could be there an hour.
Sure.
They could be there an hour and a half. Chances are, I would, as a betting guy, I'd probably say more than an hour, only because you gotta remember, this is an historical home again, and the historicalness is the interior of the house, the mold and the fire, so people are gonna linger longer, and that's part of the issue that I'm dealing with, knowing they're gonna stay longer just for that. But which category, I don't know, I mean, definitely not the first one.
Well, so let me, and by the way, part of the issue also is that your code has quality restaurant, I'm going from memory now, it has quality restaurant, and I can't remember the other one, but
There's another one.
But the ITE trip parking generation manual that the code was based on
Right.
has since been changed, and they don't have those categories anymore. They switched it around just to make our life more miserable.
Right.
But they did refer you. Your code does refer you to the latest version of the ITE.
Which you have in your report here.
Right.
Code 3, 930, 931, 932.
Right. Now, so if
And those are updated codes.
those are updated codes, right? And if you can indulge me for a couple of minutes, we might be able to
Sure.
put this to bed.
Go ahead.
So 930 is listed as fast casual, but I don't, and please correct me, because I'm just going to read what it says. See, these are the highlights of the definition. Very limited wait staff or table service. Order off a menu board. Pay before the food is prepared. Customers seat themselves, and typically you're there for 40 minutes.
Yeah, no,
Or less.
that's
No,
not
that's not it.
category.
That's what I thought, but that's one off the table, right?
The next two is, your next two list is where I get, which
Right,
one
so-
could it
so-
really be?
Right, so the next two are 931, which is fine dining, and 932, which is high turnover sit-down dining, which you did appear, but I'm not saying it is,
No.
but it did appear in your report. So for both of them, they both list wait staff and table service. So there's no clear distinction between them. You both order off the menu, you both pay after the meal, so none of that is a distinction. 931, which is fine dining, you typically wait to be seated and make reservations. For the high turnover sit-down dining, you wait to be seated, but typically there's no reservations. So that's, and I'm not saying it's always the case, but more typically, the finer the restaurant it is, you got to call and make sure you got a reservation. And the high turnover, you show up, and if there's a wait, you wait, and then you go in and you come out. And then the high turnover frequently belongs to a chain, and the fine dining typically does not belong to a chain. So that's kind of a differentiator. And then the last differentiator is fine dining is typically more than 1 hour or more, and high turnover is typically 60 minutes or less. So the three sort of differentiators you want to try and figure out where you fit in that are how long you stay, whether or not you have reservations, and whether or not you think it's more likely to be a chain restaurant.
I would think they would be, because I won't be, I'm the curator of the building that takes care of everything.
Yep.
I'm thinking with the restaurant, there's gonna be some level, I mean, Paul can tell me, how often do you get reservation calls? Once in a while, but
A
not
lot.
frequent? A lot?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I would lean in
We
this.
have large parties as well.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you've been around long enough to know
Right.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that could very well be a possibility of reservations, and I mean, that's my problem, when I read two different jurisdictions, because they are so close, and eventually we may open up for lunch, so that's a very possibility, so, I mean,
So
your expertise.
but you're gonna,
Answer
excuse
your
me,
question, does this have to do with the traffic study or the parking?
Actually both, but
Both.
it's more important for parking.
Okay, all right.
so actually you're gonna serve breakfast though?
No,
No breakfast at all?
no breakfast, no.
So the people that are staying in the bed and breakfast, they're not gonna get any meal?
As of now, we're not planning
Oh,
If they
okay.
want, go and eat somewhere, come back for dinner, and go
Okay.
retire to their room. That's the theory, or come for lunch and go up. But initially, as we originally discussed, we would open up like at 4 o'clock at first, just to build the business, and then you, as normal, you then open up for lunch. As you build up your dinner, you open up for lunch, and then you start moving it. Also, remember, Saturday's effect on the whole thing has to be skewed a little bit more, because it's an acidic holiday.
Yes, yeah.
And the roads are, you wonder why they make wide roads on Saturday.
So typically you'd look at Sunday instead of Saturday, because Sunday's
Yeah.
the big day here instead of Saturday, from a traffic perspective.
Yeah, so just to clear, I mean, I don't know which one to go with. I don't think there's really much of a difference.
Well, so that's, from a parking perspective, the average parking demand for a 2,800 square foot, 120 plus or minus seat, fine dining restaurant, land use code 931, is about 60 vehicles.
Right.
That's the average. Some are more, some are less. And then the 85th percentile, which is like just making sure that you're not, if you were more successful, you'll have more parking. If you're less than successful than the average restaurant, you'll have less. So the 85th percentile is about 80 vehicles. And that's not without outdoor dining. From the high turnover perspective, the average is 40, so that's 20 less than 60, obviously, and the maximum is about 60, so that's 20 less than 80. So it's important to try and get our hands around the parking, because there's 54 parking spaces, which is getting close to what's needed, certainly close to the 60, which would be the average for the fine dining, and it's more than the 40 and almost as much as the maximum for the high turnover. As I mentioned before, sometimes one of the ways you can deal with this is through valet parking. And if you can't modify the parking lot, what we were basically recommending was you already have a road that goes back between the parking lot and the building, and it's paved, and if you were to take that and convert some of it on one side to parking and on the other side, then you'd have a double-sided parking aisle, which is normally what you have. You take the paving out in between and you just drive through the parking lot. If that's not possible, then it's not possible.
Well,
but
that I think, and you can tell me, does that force us to exceed a half acre by
Well,
doing that?
right now you're at .4998
Correct,
acres, so
correct.
any increase is gonna put you over the half an
Okay,
acre.
so that's
Okay.
gonna affect that. And the other concept is based on, I'm willing to, and I said this at the last meeting, I'm willing to limit the number of occupancy in there. That's why one of the things they asked me for was a floor plan, which I guess you saw. We did the floor plan for the rooms, the seatings and everything.
To
To
scale?
come, huh?
You have it to scale now? You
It
did?
was sent in, it was sent as part of my
That was
submission.
submitted the
Okay.
25th.
So Jack, because it enlightened me a lot more than I thought. So what I'm trying to do is stick to making sure the 54 is satisfied. The theory is, I'd rather have 52, because it gets me within a little more way for any mistakes or error. But the point is to limit the occupancy in the building for now. If the building becomes successful, then I return back to the board to add on. But being my love for the building, I don't want to just start throwing parking lots and opening things up and things like that. I want to build it, and the easiest way to build it. Now, the office on top is the office for the restaurant.
yeah, so that doesn't really count.
Right, then they only got 4 rooms.
Yep.
You got 2 rooms, 2 of the other rooms are actually joined together with a door between them, which is where I live now and where I may be living then.
Yep.
So it's really not even online, and the other reason is because we're under the number 6 number, the health department doesn't get involved, because that's another, so when you figured, I wanted you to make sure that, that we're only looking at 4 rooms, plus I'll be there, or I'll be there, somebody will be there full time.
Right.
Because they'll be running the building.
So I don't think it does. I don't think the lodging is going to make or break it one way or the other.
Okay.
I mean, if you have 4 rooms and you're in one of them, right? That's one vehicle parked, and the other vehicles they're probably there for the restaurant anyway. So it's really only one extra vehicle.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's an interest on behalf of the applicant, and I presume on behalf of the village, to make sure that the house is preserved and then the business is successful without causing problems to the neighbours.
Correct.
So it's reasonable if we can work through this if the board chooses to, and Anthony, you can opine on this, you can set an initial cap on the number of seats and say, you know, based on our analysis, we believe that this is good. And I've actually been before boards before where you can say we'll do an initial cap of, let's just say 100. I'm just throwing it out there, right?
Yeah.
And then if you want to increase it, you do a parking study and you bring it back to the building inspector. And if you show that when you had 100 guests, you only had 40 seats, so you got 40 cars parked, so you've got 14 left over, then the board would have pre-approved increasing the 100 to 120 or something like that.
Right.
But it typically involves a post-occupancy study to confirm that your projections are verified and that you won't have a problem. And then the other thing is, you know, if the board wants to consider it, valet parking is a way of increasing your temporary number of vehicles that you park on the site. It's an expense, and you know, every expense in a historic house is just one more expense that adds to the burden of carrying it. But it's a way of generating extra revenue at peak times, and it's a limited expense by that. Presumably, if you're using valet parking, you're making money, right? Because you're parking people.
Now, what about the kitchen and restrooms? That doesn't
So
count?
so the kitchen and restrooms typically, both your code and the ITE consider the entire restaurant. You can't have a restaurant without a kitchen.
Right.
And so when you do parking counts, the ITE basically gets parking counts from various consultants, and they go out and they get the gross square footage of the building. They don't go into the building and find out how big each restaurant is. They just do the gross square footage of the building and the number of seats, and they'll do surveys, and then they'll report how many cars were parked, what the size of the building was, and how many seats there were. Sometimes they don't include the seats, but it's the gross square footage. So the kitchen doesn't generate parking separately, but you're required, and I think it has already been included as part of the square footage. And they carved out one of the rooms, I think it was the museum room or one of those, because it's not really part of the restaurant, which is fine.
Mhm. So there's no outdoor dining at all?
Seasonal, if we're allowed to do it according to the building department, but I have to check into. Right now, as I've said that from day one, I'm more worried about getting the inside up and running.
Okay.
By the time this thing gets done and open, I'm not meeting obviously my deadline. We'll be going into the winter months, and then it would be something that we could leave on the table to go to the building department and say, in the spring, we're gonna do this, and that will give us, what, 4 months leeway, 5 months to figure out what can or cannot be done?
I don't know if outdoor dining really falls underneath this project, though. Does it?
You're planning on having seating up
On the porches.
On the
Yeah.
porch, so it's part of the restaurant, but it's not in a particular situation like we have across the street here.
Oh, yeah, you
So there's no
traffic.
traffic, there's no sidewalk traffic or anything like that?
Oh, okay.
But if
So it's
any kind of dining outdoors still needs.
Okay, I just want to be clear about that.
Yeah, that I did know, because
Yeah.
I think even Bourbon Street has outdoor seating with a permit to sit outdoors.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay,
That I'm well, I just felt it was I'm being full disclosure. So in the spring, if it's working out, when the spring comes, we wanna put tables out, we can set it up to where the agreement says, I have to go
you have
to.
the porch there anyway, it's a roof, isn't it?
No, one porch, the main porch has 2 open sides,
Oh,
with
okay.
a roof in the middle.
Okay,
The other porch where the carport is the full roof.
okay,
And we were putting in our plans of potentially just on a seasonal, using it,
Sure.
and then in the winter, it's not being touched, we're not closing it off, we're not, doing like what Captain Table does, the way they close it off. We're not allowed to. I wouldn't be allowed to do that
oh yeah, you
anyway.
can't touch the
But
building.
you know, you are limiting your indoor seating because of your parking. Now you're talking about outdoor seating, which is even more parking.
Well,
So I'm a little confused here. Because you're
well,
limited with your parking.
what I'm saying is that I'd like to have the outdoor parking if we can. I mean, outdoor seating.
But you
right
need the
now,
parking.
right, what I'm hearing right now is you're right, I gotta deal with the inside. If it's working, then I'll go back to him, and then you're gonna tell me, well, the parking works, or the parking doesn't work. And if I can't do it, I can't do it.
Okay.
I mean, it's gonna come, this is a new creature for all of us. I can't point to any other business and say this, they've done it this way or that way, given the nature.
Well, you brought up a good point, and that's why the board is doing what we're doing, because we've never entertained this type of a situation in that zone. So that's
It's
critical.
unique. Don't get me wrong,
Right.
I know it's a unique
And that's what we feel too. It's
Yeah.
unique and it's never been done before
Yeah.
in this zone. So we want to make sure that everything is done the way it should be done. And if you want to expand, I don't see any reason why we can't put in a special use permit or on the site plan that if you're going to increase your parking or if the parking is not sufficient
Right.
because of your experience, then you need to come back to the planning board,
And I agree
things
with
like
that.
that.
I agree with that.
Right.
That's not something that I would arbitrarily say, I'm just gonna do it.
No, I know that,
Part
so,
of the plan when you made your little sketch, which wasn't a bad sketch, because you kinda hid the parking lot behind the building again, is there's a well there, and it's the original well from the house from 1903. So your, part of your sketch actually had it within the parking area.
Sure.
So I could never touch
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
But the reality is, and I'll say it again, I'm saying it on the record here, reality is I'm trying to get in with the minimum sufficiency, limit the occupancy, see where it goes, and come back and say, hey, if it needs it. If it doesn't need it, then we don't need it for a while. But
sounds reasonable.
I'm not looking to tear up the entire property to look like La Veracina, and you got a beautiful old homes, and there's a building sitting there, and you got a total black parking lot in
Right.
front of it.
Right.
You know, I'm just not into it. So
So-
that's why the 54. But like I said, if we could get the occupancy we could get at 52, I'd rather pull back 2 parking spots. It takes care of the issue with the police department that they raised in their review, but it also pulls me back from the half-acre ledge that I'm like only. And as you pointed out, Chairman, Gary, is that this property, this thing does not have a bulk rate or anything, no setbacks,
Right.
nothing. But what we did is we followed the residential SR10 setback rules when we laid this whole thing out
Yep.
in our thinking,
Yep.
out of respect to our neighbors, because I know one lady's gonna definitely be here blaming me for all the noise. So, and that's whether things are gonna be, but so just so you have a more picture, but I did like your report, I did like your report, it was very informative. So, I mean, it's hard to say, you might be a hybrid between the two codes of 931 and 932, but it might be more because the people are coming in and looking at the architectural detail. I mean, if you came in and saw the place, I've had openings at the
Sure.
house. Did one in May of 2017. I had 500 people go through the house and I got in trouble.
There's a restaurant in Purdy's in Westchester. I'm going to say it's a 1760s farmhouse, and they gutted the entire downstairs. I guess they added on for a kitchen in the back somehow. And it's very successful. It's a really good restaurant. It's very popular, and it has a lot of charm. And I think it would be wonderful
Yeah.
if this home was able to do that. And it's really, as you say, it's a question of managing the parking so that it does become a nuisance both on the site and off the site,
Right,
right?
yep. So basically, we're looking at either code 931 or 932 that, and like John said, you have to make a determination here of which code that you're going to, am I correct?
Well, so this board, right, your code is interesting, and it says
Yeah,
you
it is.
should apply the 2 numbers that are in the code or the latest version of the ITE parking generation manual, or I'm going from memory, whatever parking is required as determined by the planning board, and it says whichever is less,
Right,
right?
right,
So normally it's whichever is greater. So
right,
this board is charged with making that determination.
correct.
You can decide whether it should be 931,
Oh.
whether it should be 9.
Okay, so we're
32.
gonna make that determination, which
That's the
code.
power that's vested in you. And
Okay.
typically, the applicant will put their best foot forward and say, we think it's this for these reasons. And then you'll consider it, and you may challenge it a little bit, say, is that really true? Is that really true? And then, presuming the applicant is credible, you go, okay, we'll work with this. I don't know if the applicant needs to have some assistance in this regard, help him put the numbers together. And I'm representing you,
Right.
so I don't want to be volunteering any work for the applicant out of order. So,
Sure,
it would be in the applicant's best interest to have somebody sort of help him, push him into the right direction here.
Well, I
think that's
like
important.
I said, I did speak with somebody and they want $9,000 to help me. That's an expensive, for a
It-
small, what is gonna ultimately be really a non-effect to the traffic on the road, or a little moderate, that's
Yep.
a lot of money for a small business. And we've had this property vacant for 10 years now, and 3 million in, and we're still trying to get it to market.
So let me offer this suggestion. And by the way, full disclosure, you're paying for my services through the board, right,
I know.
as an escrow, okay?
I know, I see them.
I could put together a recommendation based on my fuller understanding of the project, and then you could review it and say, I can live with that, or I don't agree with this, could we talk about that? And then we could have the board talk about it and say what your opinions are, and maybe we'd find something that was acceptable to the board and that was acceptable to the applicant.
I mean,
But-
I'm fine with that at this point.
How does the rest of the board feel?
That sounds reasonable to me.
Same here.
Okay. The only reason why my only opinion is that, again, as I said before, this is the first time this has ever been done. We've never done this before in our lifetime. That zone is only residential. So I'm just making it clear to the board that we better be sure, as a board, that we're doing the correct things and making the right decisions. So, in favor of the applicant, the residents, and the patrons that come in. So, this is why we're here.
Would you be more comfortable having his own study?
I would be more comfortable in knowing the counts because of John's comment, the intersection down by Lake Street. Because you have Lake Street, you have Lakes Road,
Right.
you have 17M, you have,
It's a nightmare.
right, you have not Sweezy,
Ninth Street?
Ninth Street, you have, above this, you have, what's the other street?
Gilbert?
No,
Cromwell?
No,
next
there is,
to-
it's
besides
Sweezy.
Summit,
Is it Summit?
Summit.
Yeah.
So the only advantageous thing potentially for him is actually there are a few arms, if you will, off High Street.
17M, yeah, off High Street.
To get to
Yeah.
17M.
Yes.
Right, so you meet the lakes before you get to the stop sign.
Right.
So if you leave West Haven, you take a right, you want to go to 17M, you can take that first left there,
Right.
the second left
It's
there.
all
Right.
different.
Then go to
there's a lot
Lakes,
of
then
different
go to Lakes
ways
Road
to
there.
go.
Right.
Then before that, you can actually get on lakes before that. So there is some arms, if you will.
So it's also, I think, important for this board, and I think it's worthwhile for the applicant to determine how much traffic you're going to generate in the peak
Right.
hour, and then which streets you're going to use, because if I lived on on Ninth Street, for example, I might not be too excited to hear that the restaurant was going to be cutting through
The shortcut,
the
right?
shortcut.
Right.
And I might feel more comfortable if I knew the overall total was 40, and 8 of them were coming on Ninth Street.
Right.
But I think it's important that this board at least have those numbers so that if the residents say, what are you guys doing? You could say, well, we looked at the numbers and this is what it is and we made our best
Right.
decision.
So.
Gilbert Street is also a fairly difficult road, I think.
Well, but it's four-way stop sign,
Yeah, I know that, yeah.
all right? And it is kind of crazy intersection. It's not aligned properly. So that's one thing. But John brought up a good point, which is always behind my head here in the back of my mind. This has got to come to a public hearing, and if we don't have the data, or if we didn't do our job diligently, then the resident's going to say, well, what did you guys do? Why didn't you think about that? Or why didn't you think about this? That's why we're here today before the public hearing, finding out what we need to do to get the calculations that we need so we can feel comfortable during the public hearing. The applicant can present it, and we have all the data to support it.
But it seems to me that your concern, which I think is a valid one, won't be answered whether Canning does a study or
That's
Mr.
not the
Mitz-
point. I'm
No,
not
I
looking
know.
for an answer. All I'm looking for is the numbers.
No, I-
Whether
I-
they're right or wrong is not
Numbers meaning how many people are
the
gonna be in there?
the counts of traffic count.
Well, we can't do
This
a
way-
traffic count right now, can we?
Well, the traffic study has to be done to do traffic counts.
But that can't be done till the fall. And
Well, you can do it
Well, not
and
really.
adjust the
And do
numbers.
an
Like,
adjustment. Right,
not everybody goes away. So if I went out there, today's
Right.
what day is it? Monday? If I went there tomorrow and counted tomorrow, maybe 5-10% of the people are away, so the volumes are 5 or 10% lower now than they would be in
Right.
September. So I would count it now and say, I know it's the summer, I'm going to increase them by 10%. I base my analysis on that. And as I mentioned before, if you look at the analysis and it says there's no problem, then there's nothing to worry about. If you look at the analysis and says, well, maybe there is a problem, Then in September, you send the applicant back and say, well, your numbers weren't great, let's firm them up.
Right.
And
We have
that,
we don't have a leg to
Didn't you say
stand
there's
on
a
now.
report from
We don't know
April
the count.
2026
so that shows the number of vehicles traveling back and forth on High Street.
on April 2026.
In April, yes, and it was.
Right, that's a DOT study.
The DOT,
Right.
That was the one you were talking about. We were trying to figure out where that was.
Right.
April of this year, that was done.
but,
Yes.
So,
but
yeah.
the challenge is that traffic problems occur at intersections.
Right.
It's not gonna be on High Street.
Correct.
It's when you go down High Street to Gilbert, how bad is it, and when you go down High Street to Lakes
Right.
Road, how bad it is.
Exactly. That's the thing that we got to worry about. Like Paul said, there's a lot of fingers there.
Yes.
You have Sweezy, you have Ninth Street,
Yep.
Summit, Lakes Road, 17M, so that's,
And
and
what's that one that bears off to the right towards the Roscoe Smith house?
Yeah.
What's the name of it? Is that McElroy?
Critical Street, I don't know, I know.
oh,
No, where the park is.
Yeah.
The park nobody goes to.
It's a one-way.
yeah,
It is one way, I believe.
It's a one-way, I think.
yeah. So,
That's a one-way, yeah.
so that's basically, you know, as long as we have this data, then we can sit here at the public hearing and say, yes, we did. And the counts were whatever. And we have that proof to the public. So, as far as doing an accident situation, we can do that.
You could call the police department.
I've done it before years ago,
Yep.
with the YMCA.
Right.
I called the chief and asked him if I can have all the incidents,
Yep.
accidents,
Yep.
for a certain period of time. So we can do that. The applicant doesn't need to do that.
Okay.
Right, but
We
now
can do
on
that.
High Street, to fill you in on the statistics you get, I want to say it was 6 months ago, maybe 9 months ago, the one telephone pole down towards Lakes Road was replaced, because there was two for many years, and accidents happen on that corner all the time, because they couldn't see, the line of sight wasn't there.
Right.
But finally, they took it out about 6 months ago, so your numbers may be screwed, screwed,
Yeah, we just want
just so you know.
we just want to get the numbers.
Yeah.
Maybe to prove that, you know what, it's not that dangerous, you know, it's fine. It's history shows of what it's like. And we did that for the YMCA and it worked out great.
Okay.
So I can do that,
Good.
you know.
Because on the flip side, if there is an accident history at one of these intersections and you don't pull the data and the public is opposed to the project, they're going to come and tell
Right.
you that you should have known that it's a bad.
Well, I'd rather us do it than the public go and do it. I'd rather see this board do that, so we already have the data
Right.
before the public hearing. And the most important part is, were there any fatalities? So that's the other important thing,
So,
so.
okay, so my understanding is you'll pick up the traffic stuff, you're gonna do the whatever.
Well,
have me see it,
we're
and I can-
we're gonna do the accident investigation through the police department.
Right.
We'll do
and
that.
That's what you'll handle
Right.
there, and then he's gonna.
Now, as we said before, as John said before, if the board would like him to do a report to try to help the applicant as far as determine the code, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Are we in favor of that, of doing that?
Well, is that going to also help us decide whether a traffic study is actually needed?
I
How
don't-
do we decide this?
John, I'll let you answer that. I have my own opinion.
So, well, I was basically going to echo the chairman's opinion that it seems to me you already agree that traffic conditions on on High Street and Lakes Road are not good, right? And so the first question the public is going to ask is how much worse is it going to be? And you can't really tell that without studying. So it sounds to me like you need to study that intersection.
Right.
And then the other question, and there's a couple of bits of questions, the other question is, do you need to also study Gilbert? I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm not familiar enough with the intersection. I tell you, I am familiar with 208 and Scunnamunk Road, which I just came in.
Don't even go there. Don't even, let's
Right.
keep on going on this project.
So, you know, this board is more familiar with that intersection.
Right.
And then you may or may not want to decide, let me just think about this. I don't think you need to do an actual study of the intersection of Knight with High Street, because basically what's going to happen is you're either going to come down 17M, make a right turn onto Knight, or the one before it, but that you have to cut back and cut across. I think I would just skip that one because I don't like doing too many turns and go down
Okay.
Knight. And then you make a right turn. It's easy to make right turns. So that's not going to be a problem. People going back, coming down High Street, there's really not a lot of traffic, so it's going to be easy to make a left turn from High Street onto Ninth Street if you want to go back to make the left turn onto 17M and go north. Although you might just have gone on Gilbert at the same
Right.
time. So I don't think it's worthwhile doing night
Okay.
or the next one.
Okay,
But definitely, I think based on this board's comments, and you can discuss among yourselves, Lakes Road, and then possibly, probably Gilbert Street.
right. Now, on Gilbert Street, what we could do, and Gilbert and High Street,
Yeah.
we'll take the traffic study, the accident report from the police department also.
Yes.
So we'll see what they've come up with.
Yeah.
So that'll be helpful
Yeah.
to know. I think the importance would be the southern part, Lakes Road,
Yep.
17M.
Yeah.
I think that's going to, because mostly everybody's going to be coming from that way to the restaurant when you look at reality.
That's what I expect, but.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're coming from Harriman, if you're coming from Greenwood Lake, they're all going to come into that area
Yeah.
and go up High Street.
Right.
We could also, one thing to do, we can also, and I don't know if we can legally do it in the village or not, is put a sign down by 17M coming through one of the off-roads there instead. So they're not going down 17M to Lakes Road, making the right and making a right to go up.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know what the village, maybe you know,
But
Brian?
typically,
What the village code
typically
says?
you're not permitted to put signs for individual businesses on the highway. And certainly 17M, the DOT is not going to want it.
That's my hidden gem. I am allowed to, because it's on the National Registry of
Oh,
Historical
well, so
Places.
if you're advertising it as a national historic building,
Right.
then that may be an exception.
Yes.
Yes.
And we could easily put one over by, on 17M. I don't know if Sweezy would be better, or the next one up where the diner is, where the cleaners is, the strip mall there before the light. Which one would be
It'd be
better?
Knight or
but-
Sweezy.
Yeah, Night or Sweezy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
to be honest
And
with you,
that would actually drive traffic off of the main road with a continuous.
before you make recommendations on signing, I think you'd be better served to look at the traffic volumes and the
Right.
results,
Yep.
because
We're
number
going to have
one,
ourselves here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
number one, it could be okay, right? And number two, once you put up a sign directing traffic down people's roads, they're definitely not going to be happy.
Right,
about it.
residents aren't going to be happy.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't want to
That one
encourage.
road- Yeah, that one road, they do use a cutoff, not to have to get on Lakes Road.
Sure.
Like they may use that, so
Yeah.
that becomes, Sweezy I can see not doing it there.
Yes.
Right.
But the other one further down, maybe, but again, well, this is all conversation, whatever you come up with will be the end result.
Well,
I mean,
Right.
but we do have the ability of the sign, because I've already been told by DOT that I can do it. They just won't do it until we open up.
Right.
That's the only catch.
Okay. So I can work on a recommendation to the board on parking,
Okay.
the use and the number of trips. If you want the two intersections studied, that's more, and I'm not sure if you want me to do that. I think at this point we're getting into the territory where the applicant would probably be better served, and I know it's a heavy ask, but to get their own consultant. The other thing is, we've already talked about the peak PM hour on a Friday or a weekday. The other question is it necessary to do a study of weekend conditions? Probably not Saturday, because the applicant is right. I'm sure volumes are way down on Saturdays. Sunday's
Yep.
probably a busier day.
Correct.
And so then the question is, how is Sunday, because Sunday lunchtime will be as busy as Friday evening.
Right.
Will be from a restaurant perspective.
Yep. Especially if you're going to have a brunch there or
Right,
something like that.
exactly. The
Right.
question really is, how busy is Sunday lunchtime at Lakes Road and High Street as compared
Right.
to Friday evening?
Correct.
And if it's comparable, then it's probably worth doing an analysis. If traffic volumes are considerably lower on Sunday afternoon because people are kind of trying to take the day off, right?
Right.
Not rush around with kids and
Sure.
work and all the other stuff. If they're lower on Sunday than on Friday, then if it works on Friday, it'll work on Sunday.
Yeah,
Okay.
my expectation would be Friday and Saturday are gonna be the two peak days. Sunday, I don't see this peak.
Yeah.
as much.
Yep.
And like I said, there's nothing after 4, or after it goes dark, depending on the time of
Right.
year. Assuming they may do away with time, the time change zones, but point being is that, once it goes dark, the streets are pretty clear.
That's a hopeful ask, right?
Yeah.
Suppose they're voting on it. They always give us what we want, don't they?
Not always. All right, so then we're satisfied with John doing the report?
Yes.
Everybody's good with that?
Hey, John,
Okay.
John, you had the last page where you're talking about the traffic and stuff. I know we only got to that. How is that, bro, this?
The site distance?
No, is that what this is? This is the report I got.
Yeah. Well, again, this is like, what type of restaurant is it?
Okay.
And then, once we determine what type of restaurant it is, how many trips it will generate,
And you're talking under those 2 categories. It's gonna be a German restaurant, is what it's.
it's gonna be a German restaurant?
Yeah, I hate to tell you.
At least it's not an Irish restaurant.
Oh, God, I grew up in Peru. You know the story about Pearl River and Irish restaurants?
Yeah, I do. There used to be a great German restaurant on 32.
Oh, yeah.
Black Forest.
Black Forest. Yeah,
Yep.
there's no more around. Dave, did you have anything now to add?
I was just gonna ask, John doesn't like the blood pudding, I guess? I mean, I know, I'm a big fan. I mean, I'd be okay with an Irish restaurant.
Irish breakfast.
Yeah, there you go. I'm suffering from a cold today, so if it's okay, we'll just go through, hit some of the high points, things that have changed. Most of the letter,
Okay.
as you'll see, are repeat comments. If it's okay, I'll just go through a couple things that I highlighted. The end of comment number 5. Based upon a review of the provided lighting plan, there are several parking spaces along the southern side of the parking lot that have only 0.1 foot candles of illumination shown. In addition, lighting fixtures should be provided to increase the lighting in this area to a minimum of 0.2 foot candles. Okay.
I don't know what that means in lighting terms. Maybe you can explain it to me.
So your engineer prepared the site plan.
Right.
And did a lighting plan.
Correct.
There's 2 sheets that show lighting. One, I've actually never seen this before, but it's colored like all black.
Right.
He's used like to try to show, I guess, the degree of illumination.
Okay.
The second page actually shows the degree of illumination in terms of foot candles. So
Right.
a foot candle essentially is a measurement of the amount of illumination that a candle would generate from a foot away.
Okay.
So if you look at that, basically 0.1 foot candles is fairly dim and dimmer than you would like to have for a parking area.
Okay.
0.2 foot candles is generally considered to be
Is
the
that
minimum
all,
safe
is that all the
illumination.
lights on the property, or remember we have the 2 that are going to be old, traditional?
So if you look at the parking lot,
Yeah.
and there's a map that shows the illumination, there's
Yes.
little numbers all over them.
Yes.
And for the most part, you're holding a minimum of 0.2. In most cases, it's more than that, because right under the light fixture, you're gonna have, a 1.5 or 2
Yeah.
foot candles, okay? But the lights are spaced so far apart that you have a big spot there where there's not 0.2 foot.
In the southern corner.
It's in the southern side.
So that's where the entrance is. Up
No,
in the parking lot.
it's I don't know if I have, it's, I would say, my recollection is probably if you're coming in from,
Yeah.
you'd be coming in from the outside, from the exiting area,
Right.
okay? There's an area where it's brighter and then it gets darker. If she can pull it up, I'm sure you'll
Yeah,
see
we're
it.
gonna pull it up here for you.
Well, 'cause I
So,
might have an
so can you
extra-
scroll to the page above? It'd probably be easier to see.
There you go.
You see, like, there's an area, like, where there's a bunch of parking spaces on the southern side where it's generally darker than the other areas.
At the bottom.
Right there.
At the
Oh,
bottom.
right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so because I know to the right, we have the post lights that are going there. The old fashioned, so it keeps more with the time period. So those spots in between where that black area is.
Yes.
Okay, so should we put another light there?
That's what I would say. I don't know if he modeled those post lights that you're talking about.
Well, no, the one of those lights, the post lights I'm talking about are up towards the front.
Front, okay, so there's not
They're
gonna-
not even in the equation.
Okay,
I'm talking just about up, the one where it's good on that side is the one that you wanted where it faces down and stuff. So we'll just put another one in there. I understand it
that's
now.
all we're
That
suggesting.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally.
Behind the parking spaces, right?
Huh?
Put it behind the parking
Basically, yeah.
spaces?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're all just behind the parking
Right.
blacktop.
Where you can put the cursor right there.
Right.
Yeah, because there's not gonna be any curves, so it's gonna be literally right off of it. but
Okay.
yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not an issue.
Okay.
Thank you for explaining it.
No problem. So number 6, I just highlighted this with an underline. If the applicant does not wish to install a catch basin, because we talked about the drainage and the fact that the swale is running out to the road, we just don't want to make sure there's no issue with runoff being directed either onto the road or onto the neighbor's property. So we had a comment essentially saying that he has one of two options. One is to run it into the road drainage with a catch basin, or have his engineer submit a drainage report demonstrating that the flow from the swale and berm will not result in a significant increase in flow over the neighboring property or the existing village street, or any adverse impacts.
Okay, I looked into this. First of all, the nearest basin is, for the village, there are 2 basins 80 feet down from us when you come out the exit.
Right.
There is no drain line in the road across the front of our property. And I know that because when we did the water line years ago, there was nothing there. So there's nothing, unless I go out and down 80 feet, there's nothing there. So what I did is I called up, or not called up, I do as I usually do, and I submitted it to this board, but it's not mentioned in this comment here, is I submitted the suggestion of the basin and the work around the pillar that's out there. They are recommending that it does not get touched in that area because they're concerned, and I can show you on Pinecrest where we were not watching ourselves, and all of those pillars are now crumbling. When we did a 3,000-foot gas line, electrical lines, a cable all underground, it demolished it.
Isn't that pillar on the opposite side where this?
When you go out, it's on the left,
But the water is on the right.
Yeah.
So why is that pillar a
I'm
problem
gonna
if the
show you.
water's on the right?
I'm gonna show you.
Okay.
Terry, I sent you one with the RH runoff. I actually did a lot of pictures and stuff, so you'll see the water company was there as well
Right.
to see it. So
RH.
it's a runoff. It's right there,
No, down
right
below.
there. I'm sorry, 236. Okay, these are the different pillars. If you can go down, we gotta go to the really big one. But all of these line the property, and that's right on the straight line.
Right.
Okay? Okay, there. You notice in this picture right there, that one. See, look, this is my water line. From here to the fence is only about 12 feet. If we start digging up the ground here, they're concerned because these are usually based on the ground, that this is gonna start breaking and tumbling.
Where's your swell?
Huh?
Where is your
It's the
swell?
opposite side, right?
Do you have, did I bring up the
Yeah,
survey?
your swell is on
I'm
the
gonna show you where the swell is.
Yeah, the swell is on the opposite
It's
side
on
and
the
that's where
survey.
your water is.
That's it's on the site plan, the swell.
If you're facing the property, it's on the left side.
Right, and the pillar's
Yeah.
on the right, so I don't
Next
see
to the
where.
house, there's a house next door.
Right.
Now, years back, there was a flooding problem there, I found out.
All right. All right, here we-
And, it was running down
Okay,
to
here you
Summit.
go. This
So-
doesn't show the swell on it, but, oh, you have the one with the parking on this one? Okay, there you go. Here's where we were in the trench as agreed to. Here's the swell. We're going from 662.3, whatever that means, you can tell me, down to 658. That's the swell. So the swell line's here. So what I said that we could do instead, so we don't compromise the pillar, is take a 2x6, multiple one, and run it right to the end of the property. Because where the fence is, here, you'll see the fence is here, and my neighbor's right there. So there's not much, that's the pillar, that's the fence, not much room to work in to stay away from it.
Yeah, but then the water's gonna run into your neighbor.
No, if I go from the end of the swell and I take a 6x6 beam, pressure treated,
Right.
and I run it all the way down to the
All-
street.
All the way down to the street. Where's the
It's
water
gonna go
going?
right out to the street and along the curb line that's already pre-existing that runs in front of my neighbor's house.
I guess the question is, how much of an increase in flow is going to be going on?
I honestly don't think there's gonna be much of any.
Well, we're asking is for your engineer to
Well,
provide a
and especially
report
if you
that
have a
outlines it.
parking lot, you're
Right.
gonna have a lot more water.
There's
than
gonna be
you
more
got.
runoff.
Well, that's why we were talking about the runoff. We have here for runoff as well. We got this here. I mean, I'm not saying, my concern is they don't want me near the pillar digging anything up, that's a concern
But
of mine, because you don't want the pillar dropping, because it's part of the architectural of the building.
Our concern is the water going into your neighbors and into the street and possibly freezing and causing a very bad condition. If you don't have this water directed into something, you can't just think
Well,
2x4.
that's why-
Excuse me, you cannot expect 2x4s to redirect water, especially when you've got parking areas the water is gonna be going down this way. It slopes that way. You're gonna have water there. You need to do.
And you're gonna have erosion also.
I also inquired with the highway department, and they didn't think it was gonna be an issue either.
Well, I'd like to see that in paper.
But I
in
think-
writing
I
that
think the
if
simplest
that-
way-
I text, whatever his name
The
is.
simplest way to do this is what Dave said, is have your engineer just do the calcs, and Dave will look at them. That's probably the simplest way to solve this, as far as my opinion.
Okay.
Right, you have somebody tell me that
Yeah,
it'll work. and
just,
then I'll
just
believe
have
it.
your engineer do the calcs
It's
on the
not
flow,
working.
Okay, I'll
And-
talk to them about it.
and give it to Dave, and let Dave look at it. If everybody's in agreement, it's not a big deal, then
Okay.
we're good.
All right, the end of comment number 8's changed a little bit. So the project plans were sent to SHPO on July 2nd, 2026 for circulation of the board's intent to serve as lead agency. And again, based on my prior conversation with Sarah McIver of the SHPO, it was agreed that prior to making a secret finding, the planning board will send a written request to SHPO asking for confirmation of the acceptability of the revised plan.
Yeah, did you get a response from her on that? Because I did speak to her earlier, not speak, I keep saying speak, but I actually texted her earlier, or emailed her. She didn't know, she said she normally doesn't respond to those, but I guess we all agreed to the extent of anything that's historical to the property, they have a little say in it all. I
Right,
just
but I
wanted to
don't-
make sure.
We just, again, want to
Right.
make sure
Yeah.
that what you ultimately come out with the plan, that ultimately the planning board's going to consider.
Right, well, that's why,
That it's consistent with what SHPO requires. And,
Right.
So for instance, things like the pillar that you just mentioned.
right.
For instance, if that was coming down, they may be very unhappy with that. We want to make sure that you're not doing something to the site that
Exactly,
they're not agreeable with.
Exactly, that's why I keep sending things to her, even as we move along, because it'd be stupid to say, oh yeah, do this, get up there, and they go, not happening.
But it's important for this board to send all the submissions that we have
Yeah,
to her.
that's fine. I do
So
it by
that's
cases, and she'll have the
What
final
they,
from you.
I mean, if you want to send it to her, that's fine,
Yeah,
but officially, this board needs to
Correct.
forward it to her.
oh, I get that,
And we'll,
I
when we
get
get
that.
to a point when we can do that,
yes,
we'll
Yeah.
do that, so.
yeah, not a problem.
Okay, then moving ahead, so again, most of these are repeat comments or informational. Down to number 14, so the plan proposes a 6-foot-high vinyl fence along the rear property line. The applicant has provided a photo of the existing vinyl fence with a brief description, board to review. So there was a photograph, that's the existing fence that's on the south side property line,
It's the
right?
same, it's gonna be right on the south side, the existing south side, correct. In color, what it looks like.
Mr. Jenkins, can we back up for a second?
Sure.
Could we address number 10, now that building inspector's here?
Let me just go back to that. Number 10.
This is a sprinkler system. There's a
So, okay, yeah, so, Brian, the question here is, so we have, our comments talked about, I'm sure you know, that the building department, building inspector, former building inspector Wallner had made a determination that we needed to have sprinkler system provided throughout, right, which is consistent with the building code. Under the existing building code, they're submitting, or probably have submitted already, the performance compliance method to try to show that they have enough, essentially, points that it's not required. What's the status of that, do you know?
It's still pending.
It's still pending. Okay, so we have a note on our plan that just essentially says, because
Yeah,
the applicant is not proposing to make any upgrades to the existing water system to accommodate a sprinkler system. So essentially, my comment is saying that we're making that assumption now that there's no improvements to the water system.
There doesn't have to be, because the last time we put a 6-inch pipe in.
Right. And if it's ultimately determined that you do have to make a modification to it to accommodate a sprinkler system, then you'll have to come back to the board to do that.
On the inside,
On the outside of the building, if you were upgrading your water service,
Oh, no, again, Brian can confirm it for the board, but when on the last plan approval, we did put a 6-inch pipe in, and that's the
Right.
pipe that's gonna use, so there's not gonna be a need for water upgrade.
Right, but this board has no jurisdiction over the sprinkler system.
Correct.
So this is gonna go to the let's, hypothetically, we're gonna move forward, if it gets approved, that's it, then Mr. Mitz has to go to the building department for the sprinkler system.
Well, for
Or-
that and all
or
the
the-
items listed in Unborn 1.
Right,
all
but we're just talking about the sprinkler system.
Yes,
So
correct.
the sprinkler system is not our jurisdiction here. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dave.
Only in as much as if it affects
The-
the
the wa-
service
right.
between the road and the building itself.
Right.
And if they had any upgrades that were required for that, then yes, it would be under the purview of
Correct.
the board.
Yeah, the only thing we're working on now for Brian to close it out that he needed is you guys wanted the plans updated to show the country inn name on it, because everything else is essentially the same. So I have somebody, but I have them on hold right now, because I
Okay.
wanted to get through some of this other stuff first.
Yep,
Because that's really a building department issue, not a planning board.
correct.
But
my
let
knowledge-
me, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, from my knowledge, he doesn't have to put in a fire, a sprinkler system? A restaurant doesn't
Well-
have to have a,
Well, here's the difference. First of all, because we're historical, we got a lot more leadway under the historical adaptive reuse for the building codes. Second, there is a system in the house, it just has to be revamped. There's the standpipe system with 4 locations. The entire basement is sprinklered in the basement, and that's where our major equipment are. As Brian knows, Brian, I think you visited the house, didn't you? Yeah. The kitchen is fully
Oh, okay.
commercialized with everything that you need for a commercial kitchen.
okay.
So everything was there that needed to be done. The question is, how much do you really need it? Where do you need the sprinkler system more than anything? And so, yeah, no, that's, I just gotta give them the revised, and like I said, I've had that on hold because of all these other things that came up.
Okay.
And that's something I can still work with him after the board approves it, because it's subject to closing that permit anyway.
Thank you.
No problem.
So, okay, were we done talking about the fence, or did you want to go through the materials that he submitted on that?
He submitted 2 photos, so showing the fence.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do
So-
is, what I'll do
Well,
for
then
you,
put it up.
Gary, what I'm gonna do for you with the fence, of course, is when we go to update the site plan, we'll add these to the site plan itself,
There you go.
so you'll see it. That's the one that's there now, and then there's another one picture that shows you there.
So that's the existing fence on the
Correct.
southern property line.
Correct.
Right.
So that swale is going to be, that you're talking about, is going to be
It's
on the
gonna
near
be
side of that fence.
parallel, yeah,
Yep.
parallel down to the road.
So actually, any runoff from there comes down towards the driveway and then down
Correct.
to the road.
Correct.
Right.
And the swell there's a little area where the land right now goes towards the property next door, but the swell diverts it and gets rid of it off keeps it in the driveway
Okay.
to run off.
Okay, and then the last comment I had, again, was that the public hearing was required. I mean, you might want to iron out the traffic and the numbers before you have that scheduled. That'd be my recommendation anyway.
Yep. Okay, so then, John, you're going to do the report for us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
The one question I had is whether you believe a Sunday analysis is required in addition to a weekday PM analysis.
That's kind of hard for us to make that determination right now.
Well,
Not-
then the answer is do the traffic counts and it'll
Yeah.
speak for itself.
Yeah.
If you
I mean,
if you
if we knew, we wouldn't be here.
Right. Okay. So that answers that question. And
Right.
with the board's permission, is it okay if I communicate with Mr. Mitz specifically
problem.
about maybe laying out parking, that what could be done, what couldn't be done?
Yeah, the board feels okay with that?
Sure.
I never object to any of our consultants interfacing with the applicant or the applicant's consultants. so they can get things ironed out.
Right.
And then-
It's,
I'd like to see it move on, so.
it's
yeah,
productive.
definitely.
It's
Thank you.
productive. The only other thing that I want to bring up, in the code, in this code, the planning board has the opportunity to hire a architectural historian who knows everything about the old historic features of the building, things like that. Now, that's our prerogative if we want to do that, so I don't know how the board feels about that.
Well, is he actually doing anything inside? I mean, what
Well,
would we use it for? Let's
To
put it that
review
way.
everything,
To go over everything he's
like-
doing to make sure,
you know, just to confirm everything. We did it last time with the 6 residents that were going to be there. And, you know, so he reviewed it for us. If you want to do that again, it's in the code. It's something that we want to do, we can do it. If not, if, it's up to you, it's up to the
To your
board.
knowledge, did anything stick out with the information that we got then, of anything that was significant, or I know it's.
Well, this is, it's a different use, so it's a different situation now. So it's a restaurant, it's a country inn, bed and breakfast. So that's completely out of context of what we had back in 2020. So that's why I'm just bringing it up to the board. I don't want to overlook that.
right.
So it's up to the board what they want to do.
Well, can I ask you something? I know it's up to the board, and we went through this the last time. What if, I mean, I can contest that everything in that property has not changed since the last time.
Oh, that's not what we're doing.
No, no, I'm saying, but what's the
It's just another,
significance?
opinion of
Okay.
something that we don't have knowledge of. You know, and that's what it was last time. We're not historians, so we don't know right from wrong here.
Right, so he would just review the plans and see if anything's stuck, you know.
Right,
So it'd actually be helpful for you also, Mr. Mitt, to find out from
'Cause
this
it's a
guy and
different
say
use.
you're within your lines and everything is fine with your historical status, right?
Well, wouldn't SHPO, wouldn't SHPO give you that? Because they're the ones who had everything from day one as well.
but as you said, SHPO doesn't respond to anybody.
No,
so-
no, they won't, with your lead agency, they won't. If you ask them about other stuff, they will.
Yeah,
It just, they said they don't get involved in lead agency stuff. They don't get involved in the use.
I understand that, but I think in this situation, we don't know anything about historic buildings, architecturally wise. We did find out things that you can't use a sprinkler system in that building because then it becomes off the records of the internet, the historic, registry. So that's why, Mr. Mitz couldn't put a sprinkler system in. Because once you start drilling into the walls or opening up walls, it's done. It's not historic anymore. So, again, I'm just bringing it up to the board. It's the board's decision. It's one thing that, that we have in the code, that was, when the code was created by law, this is what was in there, so.
Well, if anything, especially since it's a new area and this is the first time we're doing something, it might be helpful. I could see it as helpful.
Okay, but it's up to the whole board.
Yeah,
So-
I'd be curious to see what would turn up at that review.
So you're in favor?
I'm in favor, yeah.
All right. Okay, so everybody, so we'll look up the historian that did this originally, up in Albany, and we'll just send it to him, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah,
They could even pick up from where he was last time, refirm everything, and give you what you need.
right.
Probably a lot quicker.
Again, just to cover everything, when we had the public hearing, questions come up, you have the answers.
Yeah.
So to the column that you were talking about, on the exit of the parking lot, going to the right, it's only 12 feet wide from.
It's only about 12 feet wide, and it goes from the column on the left,
Okay.
on the southern end, as I showed you in the
And there's no
picture.
column on the right, or there's two
There's
columns?
nothing on the, there's a fence on the right.
My concern would be your tractor trailers, your delivery guys pulling out.
No, they would have to, actually, what they would have to do is they'd have to come from the south to come in, and they have to go south to go out, because of the position of this
Right.
pillar.
If they pulled the left out of there, they would destroy.
They can't even make that left, correct. So the idea was, and there's a bigger opening of it, just to the right here is where the fence line is, which sits on my fence line of the neighbor. So I know the fence line I'm following. That's why even if we took the swell and continued it all the way down to the front end of the property, which is maybe another thought we could work with, but the reality is that they don't want anything because they break apart too easy.
That would be my concern, is the tractor trailer pulling out, getting stuck, being there
Correct.
for 2 hours.
And there would,
then,
and now that you raise it, I think what I need to do is in the back of that, when they're coming out, say right turn only for trucks, right turn only.
it's an option.
I can always add that in there.
That throws them on lakes, but, you know, but it's.
Well, they're coming up from lakes anyway, because I don't think they can get, so for some reason, ShopRite trucks always come up Highview,
Well,
High Street.
They have to.
Do they have to? Okay.
We changed that when we put in Smith Farm. We didn't want tractor trailers coming down Gilbert, so we made it go 17M up to,
Okay.
And then right
Lakes,
over.
Yeah.
and then go on High Street.
Yeah, and more than likely, I'm thinking these are gonna be big box trucks, not necessarily tractor trailers.
You probably won't get 53s, but you might get something in there. Do we have an opinion on that as well?
Sure. So there was some language in the materials provided that indicated it was only going to be box trucks.
Okay.
Box trucks shouldn't be a problem, although I do have a question because, Mr. Mitz, I may have misunderstood. You said that they would come from the south, but you kind of implied, or I understood that they would go in the exit. Are they going to go in the north exit?
No, they're going in the exit. Service trucks go in the exit early in the day.
It's gonna be two-way now.
So carport.
That exit's gonna be
On the
two-way.
right. Right, there's a carport on the right side they can't get on.
On the north side.
Right, yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
on the entrance
okay,
going in,
okay.
so they can't go in that way.
So is it going to be widened?
No. What's gonna happen is, it's one way in, one way out. The service trucks all come in the side of the exit.
So
Because
that's two-way.
It's,
The way I-
yeah.
the way I
Only for
understand it.
delivery purposes only.
But I will tell you, you know, you like to assume and think that they're gonna be there at 11, 9 a.m.
Yeah,
It's not
you
the
know
case.
that,
You know,
yeah.
there's delays, there's whatever, so there might be something to think about
Yep.
with that exit. I don't think you have another option because they can't go in the entrance because of the.
Because of the carport, correct. And that became an historical issue last time
You just
too.
don't want the guy halfway in, the guy coming
Yeah.
out. Now, you know, he knows to know, is it, you know,
Oh, yeah,
the little things I think are important to address because little things could become big things.
yes.
Something that just,
Oh,
there's any way to work that.
You don't have a lot of room to widen that, because they've got the pillar on one side, now you're gonna have a drainage swale that we're gonna put on the other.
Right.
So there's no real opportunity to widen that driveway.
Right.
So, two things kind of related to that, Dave. One, if there's tractor trailers, you're definitely going to have to do a whole truck turning analysis. I don't think you're going to make tractor trailers work on that side.
No.
So you may want to prohibit it.
Yeah, but like when we get deliveries from Home Depot, they park on the road, they unload, and then they go.
Yeah, well, that's not what you're going to be doing on a daily basis for the restaurant,
No.
right? So,
You don't want a hand truck up and down while they're doing that, you know, taking their time on High Street.
Yeah, well, that's the idea of the box trucks and delivery trucks. They can come right into the back. They got 8,000 feet of turnaround, plus the two-way they can come in. So getting in there, not, the only problem's gonna be potentially from where the new parking area is to the exit. That's really the only area where it's gonna be a problem. The rest of it shouldn't be a
What
problem.
about emergency vehicles?
Huh?
Emergency vehicles?
Same entrance.
Yeah, emergency, a fire truck, and you have a restaurant full of people and people trying to come out, and then you're gonna have a fire truck coming that way? That's a problem.
Well, when the chief looked at it, and it was looked at by chief, the prior chief too, it's the way they've always serviced the property, always.
but it was a different use.
Exactly, you're not gonna have people people are gonna be actively using that driveway. When it was, before that, you didn't have constant traffic, but if you have a restaurant full of people, you're gonna have people coming in and out a lot. And if there's a fire or somebody choking or something, and then you're gonna have an ambulance coming in and people trying to come out, we'll need an accident analysis for that. You know, that's just an accident waiting to happen.
Tim, I don't know the property well. Is there any way in the entrance to go around the carport, or is there?
Now with a lot of land disturbance.
And that would be over the point by.
Yeah. Yep, I keep getting backed into that corner.
But even how will the entrance driveway work? I mean, will all of your delivery guys know that they're supposed to be
Never.
going
And
in?
they're never the same, unfortunately.
Right, and so therefore, are you making it categorically two-way for everybody? Which it's not wide enough to be two-way for everybody, so it's a question of, you know, how do you make that work?
And then you see people seeing trucks coming in that way, they're thinking it's an entrance. A regular person will think it's an entrance because trucks are coming in.
There
So-
are signs down there that say delivery entrance only,
I have
emergency vehicle.
I have seen streets, and typically it was related to church. I have seen streets where they put up temporary signs on a Sunday to say, "Do not enter for a street." It's a two-way street, but on Sundays they make it one-way.
Mhm.
So conceivably, you could say, "Okay, all your deliveries have to be made before 11 a.m. No trucks can come onto the site after 11 a.m." or some number, and then you can put a sign on the driveway every day at 11 a.m. "Do not enter." Right, and everybody has to go the other way. And then before 11 a.m., from let's say 7 to 8, whatever, 8 to 11, it would be a two-way driveway, but there would only be a handful of vehicles there. Maybe somebody's visiting to make a booking or something, and maybe there's a truck coming. Some way like that. But, if you're going to have two-way traffic, and the emergency vehicles is another issue, you got to figure out how you're going to make it work.
Hmm. Hmm. That's a problem.
I mean, it's good to have these conversations now because you don't want to get in that situation and
Yeah.
you don't want to be out there like a airplane bringing vehicles in. It'll be brutal for you.
I thought the fire department did review this months ago. back
They
in
did.
March.
They
And
did.
they cleared everything.
Right.
They were, I believe, operating under the assumption they would be coming in the exiting road, and there's an emergency
Right.
vehicle.
Lights
You
and
know.
sirens, everybody would
Yeah,
yield.
might
Yeah.
makes right. They'd get out of the way.
Yeah, so the
Cars would get
chief-
out of the way.
Chief already looked at this. I wasn't on the board at the time, but I think it was back in March or
It
February.
was early on in the review.
Right.
Yes.
I think the fire department, I'm looking for it, but I don't see it.
Yeah, you have an email from Chief,
Yeah, I saw it, but I can't
yeah,
find it
and-
now.
And he looked at the same, it's been serviced the same way. The only addition he has this time is they've got that back parking lot that's going in.
Well, it was almost the same thing in 2020.
Exact same thing.
Right.
Exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I can't find it, but,
It's in I believe I added it in this submission.
oh, you
The one
did?
I just did.
Okay.
I believe I added a copy of the email.
Fire chief letter. I think you just passed it, Terry. Yeah. Right down one, right
You
there.
got better eyes than me.
There you go.
Gordon or Lanahan?
There you go.
Which Lanahan? Now, is that with an empty building or that was a full? That's not very good.
Well, they just review the access, the turns and things like that.
Yeah, they've been there on emergencies
Right.
a number of times and when it was under ARC,
What date was that?
so. And they used to do training in the building too for the occupancies. because
Okay,
they were
March.
Mentally disabled,
Yeah,
handicapped
March.
people.
Okay.
Yeah, I think our concern is just one out of wellness and think of all the worst things that could possibly happen and just having that solution beforehand.
Yeah,
I think that's
Yeah.
our position, I think.
I think so, yeah.
You know, and that's all. I mean, I'd like to get this worked out.
yeah. Well, the question is, how much can it be worked out, given the restriction and simultaneously trying to avoid a
Terry, can
commercial
you
look?
put
Because
that
that would
back
be
up?
another problem I will have. People complaining if it starts looking too commercial and not residential. And that was the original idea why I keep them, when he suggested the same thing, keeping everything behind the buildings and behind the trees so it doesn't look so commercial.
You could just take your own trips to the restaurant depot every twice a week and get.
That
your own
may
food.
probably be the reason, you know?
Oh,
Hey, I got a van for it.
It's work, but it's, you
Right.
Yeah. I agree.
gotta think of, these are things that we have to think about,
Yeah.
as a board and as an owner.
What's the clearance on the
Carport?
On the carport?
9 feet.
9 feet.
9 feet.
It's funny, it kind of disappears. Kind of disappears sometimes. There you go.
All right.
Yeah, we should have it in our files. So we're good? Ivan, anything you have there?
Nothing, man.
Nothing to add?
This isn't-
Brian?
Brian, you have anything? No. I did come up with, it's in my submission, I thought everybody would have looked at it prior, but you'll look at it after. My concern is one thing. We put the parking in, lot in, and we do everything, and I'm ready to open up, but I have one problem. Planting the replacement trees.
What do you mean?
Well, if the parking lot gets done in November, I can't plant until spring.
In our code, it tells you, it gives you a window when you can plant.
It does. Do you know what that window? I didn't even know. Or would Brian know? No? But
Under landscaping,
landscaping?
yeah.
It gives you like a 6-month window or something?
It tells you, I guess, from what I remember, it gives you the time that you can plant and when you can't plant,
Right.
basically.
That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
Because if I can get it all done and everything ready to go, but I can't put the trees in,
Dave was gonna look
You
at
know,
it.
I'm gonna
is-
look,
okay.
you probably have it on the plans already.
well, you know, if I can't put the trees in, is that gonna stop me from opening up?
No, because you can't plant in the winter,
Yeah, I know.
you know.
Unless it's a
So-
snowbird.
But, you know, like like the Indiana bat situation.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, no.
Take trees down, you have
Yeah.
a window that you can do that.
Okay. Oh, there, the
So-
bat issue.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got plenty of them.
but I know it's in the landscaping plan. Or is it under general provisions?
Gary,
Yes.
can I call that guy to make sure he knows it's a two-way?
Yeah,
You know, I want to just make sure he made, because he's saying about maneuvering and stuff
Yeah,
like
just make
that. He's
sure-
not, he hasn't mentioned that it's a two-way, they're going to be entering on a
Yeah.
two-way, and it's
Yeah,
only
just-
12 foot wide.
just make sure you have the documentation referred to.
But I can call him and ask him
Sure.
about that, okay.
Sure, I don't have a problem with that. I don't
Thanks.
think the board has any problem with that, right?
No, I
Yeah.
don't, probably should be an email, right? That way it's clear what was said.
You
Oh,
wanna
okay,
send
yeah,
an
I'll
email?
send him an email.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'll copy everybody,
Yeah.
just to make sure he's aware that it's a two-way and it's only 12 feet wide.
Take the document and email them and, you know,
Right.
and the board
And
and,
then I
Our
just want to
consultants?
make sure he knows,
sure,
because it didn't say that he knew there, it just says he can maneuver.
right,
I just want to make sure he took that into consideration.
not a problem.
Yeah, in maneuvering, he was referring to the back.
Right, turning around.
Turning
everything.
around and
Yeah,
stuff, 'cause
exactly.
like I said-
That's why I just want to
Yeah,
make sure he knows.
because they've
about
been there for
conditions.
emergencies before,
Okay, yeah.
with the trucks coming in.
I'll have to look.
And the only thing we didn't talk about, it seemed to have fallen off of the landscape or off of the engineer's report, is we were going back and forth about the occupancies and stuff like that. That's no longer on there. I'm not sure why.
I'm deferring to Mr. Canning's review
Oh,
of
okay.
the
That's why.
parking and.
That's why.
'cause
Okay.
That's the only reason we were, as a board,
Okay.
really, at least in my
Right.
opinion, looking
Yeah,
at the
okay.
occupancy was because it relates to the parking and the.
Yeah, the only reason I asked that question, because on your prior reports, stuff I submitted, and like the response from Orange County, the numbers, the numeric numbers on the Orange County's response has changed due to those adjustments, so the board's aware that you don't start looking at this and go, we talked about this or that, or in my notes, is he says number 17, and there's no 17. It's because the adjustments that they have made with Mr. Canning, I guess. That was, I was wondering.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, though, here, we have to make the decision of the number of parking spaces.
Well, and I agree with that, and that's why I put it on the table about restricting the occupancy, so we meet that, let's see what happens, and then I'll come back and worry about it if I need more. I have no interest, we're already a lot into this, and what if it doesn't work? How much do you want to tear up the property?
Exactly.
I mean, that's really where my opinion is on the whole thing.
Okay, thank you.
Did you get it, Dave?
Yeah, Brian found it, yes. I
Okay.
was higher up in the section, but 200-32K. No certificate of occupancy shall be issued until the tree planting and landscaping are complete, except that between October 31st and April 1st, the permit holder shall submit an agreement in writing signed by the permit holder to ensure that all trees shall be planted and all landscaping work shall be completed on or before the first day of June next, following the making of the agreement.
200-32K?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Cool, so that's covered then, that's not an issue.
Okay, so we're all in agreement here, where we're going. Mr. Canning's gonna do the report for us. I'll go to the chief and ask for copies of, I don't know, maybe from, what do you wanna do, a 3-year or a 5-year look at the incident reports up there?
3 years is standard.
Yeah, so we'll go the last 3 years to today, so to say, of accidents, incidences, they really call them. And we'll get the historic architect to look at the plans and everything and get the information. And I guess that's about it, right? I don't think of anything else. So once we come up, get everything put together, maybe we should think about public hearing.
Okay.
You know, we can set the public hearing, even if we set it a month or two, after the next meeting or the next month's meeting, whatever. As long as we have all the information and we can move forward with that. So, okay? Everybody's good? Okay.
I might have a more general question for Mr. Canning. It involves traffic, I guess, for this project, but I think more generally in Monroe. We've got traffic problems all over Monroe. It's just a nightmare anymore. And I'm sure that on Smith Farms, every other big project that came along, we had traffic consultants take a look at things and say, okay, according to the IT, it looks like it's okay, and
Yep.
it'll be fine.
Yep.
But it hasn't been.
Yep.
Those predictions have not worked out very well. And I was reviewing the comprehensive plan just a few days ago. You look all over the population per square mile in Monroe and in most of the villages around us, and it's a couple thousand people. But we have this anomalous situation where right next door in Curious Joel, in 2010, there was 18,000 people per square mile versus 2,400 in Monroe. And then in 2020, it was 2,700 in Monroe, and then 29,000 per square mile.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge outlier. I mean, if you look at Blooming Grove and all the other
Sure.
municipalities around
Yep.
us, they're all about a couple thousand people
Yep.
like Monroe.
Yep.
Not like this huge population density
Mm-hmm.
that we have at Curious Joel and now the town of Palm. Does the ITE, because that's the standard we always reference, does that take account of the fact that you could have a couple thousand people in most municipalities, and then right next door, boom, you jump up by a factor of 10, a tenfold factor.
Mm-hmm.
Does the ITA take account of that, or does it assume that the outlying municipalities are like what you're dealing with here?
So the ITE looks at specific land uses. So if I was doing a supermarket, it would say, okay, a supermarket should generate this many trips. If I was doing 100 single-family home development, it should generate this many trips. If I was doing a 10,000 square foot office, it should generate this many trips. So it looks at specific parcels of land. It doesn't look at towns unless you want to do a comprehensive plan when you look at all of your unbuilt property,
Right.
what it's zoned for,
Okay, yeah.
what you could build on it, and then you can apply the ITE. When you get individual projects in here in front of you, like this one and many other ones, the standard is what impact are they individually going to have? That's really the standard. And then the question is, what do you compare it to? So what we typically do is we go out and we count the existing traffic volumes today. The applicant tells us we'll be done in 2 years, right? And so we grow the existing traffic volumes. Now this is part of where your neighboring communities would come in, right? We have to grow the existing traffic volumes to account for general traffic growth in the area. And typically what we do is we go and look at New York State DOT, and they have historical data back through 1977, which is like a lifetime ago. But you could look at the last 3 years and see how traffic volumes have changed in the last 3 years. And if you see that because of a community that's next to a highway, that traffic volumes have gone up by 10% on that highway, and your project is on the other side of the highway, you can make an inference, well, generally traffic volumes are going up by 10%, right? So you would factor that in, and then you also factor in what other specific developments there are. So for example, a traffic study for this application should include whatever traffic is likely to be generated by the 208 Business Centre development. So that's going to generate 100 cars. They're not all going to come down High Street, but a few of them are. So you should account for that and the various other applications. So a comprehensive traffic study would account for the neighbouring community, but the neighbouring community is quite unusual, and it's quite an outlier from the rest of the communities in this part of the county. So it's difficult to do, frankly. Does that even start to answer your question?
The only thing that can get you close to that is a traffic study of how that.
Comprehensive traffic study.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one we've done?
Oh, well, you know, the way New York is, everybody's little village, and we all look at our little village, and we're not allowed to look at anybody else's little village.
That seems to be, that's a problem, because I mean, looking over the comprehensive plan, all the other municipalities were a couple thousand people,
Yes.
except for Kira Shoal, Town of Palm.
So,
And then the magnitude of difference wasn't even like 50% or 100% too.
Yep. Yep.
It's more than 1,000.
so here's the way it works in New York, in my opinion, and I'm a traffic engineer, not a lawyer, right? In Curious Joel, when they want to build new apartments, which it's their right, their village, their land use, and if they comply with their code and you're allowed to put X number of units in, they're still required to comply with state law and do a state environmental quality review. They're required to do a traffic study. And when they do the traffic study, the public is entitled to comment on it. This is now, you're not going to like how the story goes, but this village could review the traffic study and say, you know, you guys, we need you to study these intersections in our village because all of these trips are coming out here. And they will either do it or do a good job, right? Or all villages being somewhat parochial, they'll probably just say, it's good enough, right? And then what you would have to do is you would have to sue them.
From an Article 78.
Yes. So, as I said, it's not a pretty story. There's benefits of home rule, and then there's disadvantages of home rule. So you have to figure out how to make that work.
This has been going on since I was on the planning board back in 1997 with traffic, because we saw the traffic building up, and then in the 2000 range, maybe like 04, 05, 06, whatever, we were told that they were going to extend Larkin Drive
Correct.
over as a service road across from
All the way to 208, right?
and go out to 208.
Right.
And that was the plan, but then somebody moved in over there and took over that land. Nobody knows what happened there. And that's what we were told. But that would have been a service road where nobody would have to come through the village of Monroe. They would actually go on the service road along the Quickway, going the opposite way, the Quickway, but on the side. So that was one plan. Then before I left the board, they had somebody had money, and they were going to redo the Quickway interchanges, 130 and the two exits, and not come out to Scunnamunk anymore on the 208 or North Main. They were going to go through the back and get on the Quickway and divert the traffic up there. So it wasn't all coming down to Scunnamunk and 208. I don't know what happened with that either. And then we go to the 208 Business Center, and I, was off the board, so I don't know where that was. That's why we're bringing it back, to find out what's
Back
going
the
on.
table over there, I believe.
No, we brought it back. We told them, I said, come back. I'd like to see what you're doing. I wasn't here. Then we saw it last month that I guess it was a phasing construction plan, which I really don't understand. We picked out, we had three options back in maybe 2019 or 18. We had three options to pick. And we had a big meeting, we all looked at it, and we all came up with the one option. I even forget what it was. And I don't know what happened to it after that. So, it's been looked at for many, many, many years. Just that everybody comes through Monroe. You want to go to Chester from Harriman, where are you going to go? Through Monroe. So we've always had the problem. And it's always been, even with Smith Farm, was a big big thing.
We haven't had a problem, we didn't really have a problem in the eighties and the seventies. I mean, maybe you guys did, and I'm sure there was a big change between the sixties and the eighties here. A lot of buildings.
Oh, yeah, well, when I came,
But in the eighties and nineties, there wasn't this traffic nightmare that we've had since the late aughts.
well, because the population grew so much. But when I moved here in '79, the summer was crazy. But after Labor Day, even the supermarkets, I mean, you didn't have any of these supermarkets here. You had the old, I think it was Grand Union, or whatever it was over here where Bagel Boys is. But, you know, when Labor Day came and went, you can go to the store and you didn't have to stand online anymore. You know, you can walk through.
I don't recall it from the eighties and the nineties being that bad. I recall.
No, I'm saying when I first moved up here in '79, it wasn't bad. As the '80s was going into the '90s is when it started to pick up. That's when we were getting traffic in here.
Sure.
I mean, that's from my history, you know.
Well, to your point, I guess, what you're saying, that these studies just don't seem quote unquote.
They don't seem to,
accurate,
they
right? I
don't
mean,
seem to have borne out, no. No, so I'm wondering, I mean, it just struck me, it was just such a huge outlier.
Nobody can predict the population.
Well,
Increase it.
no, actually you can. I think you can. Where it's gonna grow, where it's not, actually.
How, you know, that's gonna be hard to do sometimes, you know. I mean, everybody was coming up here, and after, in 2020 and 2021, everybody left here, and they're still leaving here. So, you know, it's, to me, it's a thing we just have to figure out as we go along. Anyway,
Okay.
so we're good, everybody's good?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. We want to make a motion to adjourn?
Move to close.
I'll second that.
All's in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want